So the next session of our program is a lecture by Professor Naoko Matsumoto. Professor Matsumoto is a professor at the Research Institute for the Dynamics of Civilizations at Okayama University. Professor Matsumoto will give us a lecture titled Gender and Violence in Ancient Japan. What can we learn from the past? If you have any questions or comments during the session, please feel free to send your questions through the Q&A box. Professor Matsumoto will answer your questions in the second half of the session. Professor Matsumoto is in the archaeological exhibition room right now. So let's see if we can see Professor Matsumoto. Professor Matsumoto, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Saida, for introducing me. I'm Naoko Matsumoto, a professor in archaeology, and I'm in the archaeology exhibition room. It's a very compact museum, but it contains archaeological materials that have been excavated by archaeology team of Okayama University. And I'd like to start my talk with a question. What do you think this is? This is a precise replica of a very rare and important archaeological objects that have been found in Japan. The real one is made of stone, and you can see that the surface is covered with an intricate pattern of belts or sash, and you can see a face attached in here. And I will give you an answer in the later part of my presentation. And the ancestor of us, the Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa about 200,000 years ago, and they spread around the world about 5,000 years ago. And they arrived to the Japanese archipelago about 40,000 years ago. And that was in the period of the last glacial period, and the climate was cooler and drier than now. And the Seto Inland Sea was not a sea, but a large grassland. And here you can see a fossil evidence of now extinct animals, such as elephants. And these large animals were roaming on the grassland, and they were very important food resource of the Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. And these are the archaeological material excavated at the Ombara site in Okayama University. And here you can see beautiful obsidian and quartz knives. So the Paleolithic people were hunter-gatherers. They were living in small groups consisting of a few families, and they frequently moved in search for food resources and other natural resources. And it is a bit difficult to know what kind of social organization this Paleolithic people had, but based on ethnographic evidence, it is likely that they were kind of egalitarian society, and the food sharing was very important for them because you don't catch an animal every day, so it is very important to share what a lucky member could get in a group. Otherwise, the group cannot be maintained. And if there were people who want to keep what they got, or people who want to have more than others, those will be severely criticized by other group members, and they couldn't stay in a group. So there was a very strong mechanism to keep the society egalitarian. And that's the starting point of human history. And you may realize that, wow, now we are living in a very different world. And how the human society have transformed from those egalitarian society to the modern world now we are living in, with lots of social problems and warfare. That is one of the very important archaeological questions. And today I'm going to talk about the relationship between gender and warfare in ancient Japan while looking at the actual archaeological material in our museum. And as a background of my talk, here you can see the chronological information on this panel. I'm sorry, the descriptions are in Japanese, but after the Paleolithic period, we have just seen Jomon period started about 15,000 years ago. The Jomon period was also a hunter-gatherer society, but they were relatively sedentary societies, and they had very rich archaeological material culture, including pottery. And after the Jomon period, rice cultivation was introduced from the Korean peninsula, and the agriculture society was established in Japan, and the period is called Yayoi period. And during the Yayoi period, population increased based on agriculture, and the social stratification emerged. And it will lead to the Kofun period. This is the period of state formation in Japan. And in the Kofun period, large burial mounds, many of them were constructed in all over the Japanese archipelago. Kofun means ancient, a burial mound. So it is very characterized by the construction of burial mounds. And now we start from the Jomon period. The Jomon period was, as I told you, a hunter-gatherer society, but they utilized plant food. And here you can see stone tools that were used to process plant food. And they also did some hunting with stone arrowheads. And we also have very rare objects found from the campus site, the stone ring and the earrings. So we know that the Jomon people, had some sort of ornament, body ornament. And here, this is the remain of storage pit that was excavated from the Okayama University campus site. And maybe you can recognize a black bit on a woven mat. And this is the remains of acorns stored in a pit. It's a leftover after the Jomon people, took the acorns from this pit. And in the Jomon period, many archaeological evidence suggests that there were not a significant gender difference in terms of political or economic power, because women were also responsible for many economic works, like collecting plant foods or small animals. And it seems that women were also symbolically important because a number of clay figurines representing women have been found from archaeological sites belonging to the Jomon period. And here you can see one of the examples of the Jomon clay figurines. This is a very stylized version of clay figurines. So maybe you have you think that this doesn't look like a people at all. But there are other examples which is more naturalistic. And in this example, this is very well made. And you can see a little bulging on the breast. So this still represents women. And when we want to consider the relationship between violence and gender, we need to have some evidence about violence. And my colleagues and I conducted research on skeletal remains, looking for the evidence of violent attack on them. The violent attack, left some marks on the bones. And we found that in the Jomon period, the ratio of the people who have evidence of violent attack is less than 1% of the total skeletal remains. It suggests that the violent activity was infrequent during the Jomon period. But the ratio of the violent attack increases in the Yayoi period. We saw that in the Yayoi period, agriculture started and population increased. And based on our analysis, the ratio of the injured individuals is tripled compared to the German data. And why people started to fight in the Yayoi period? It is maybe it was necessary for them to fight for land and water to secure agricultural production. And eventually, they started to fight each other for the supremacy of their groups. And that incessant warfare led to the development of social stratification in the late Yayoi period. And we can see that the emergence of social stratification by the emergence of large burial mounds. And Tatetsuki burial mound, which is in Okayama, and the Okayama University excavated a few decades ago, was the largest burial mound in the 2nd century AD. And I'm really sorry that, many very interesting objects are not here because they are on loan for an exhibition in a different museum. But you can see the bright red stuff over there. It's a vermilion that was found from a large wooden coffin inside the burial mound. And scientific analysis indicates that this cinnabar, vermilion, was imported from China in the 2nd century AD, suggesting that the international connections of the very powerful chief who was buried in the Tatetsuki mound. And here you can see a very similar object that we saw at the beginning of my presentation. It is all broken in the course of the funeral ritual, but you can see the similar pattern of intricate, pattern of intertwined sash. And the one we saw first of my talk has long been enshrined on top of the Tatetsuki mound as a deity, but nobody knew when it was made and why it was produced. But thanks to the excavation result, which found this material inside the mound, now we know that the large one was also produced during the Yayoi period in the course of the funerary ritual of the powerful chief of Tatetsuki. And unfortunately, we have no bones left from the Tatetsuki. So we don't know whether the powerful chief was a woman or a man, but other archaeological evidence suggests that the gender gap gradually increased through the Yayoi period. But the women didn't completely lose their political power in the Yayoi period. And the Chinese historical material indicates that there was a queen in the 3rd century who was the top of the Japanese political system. And this is the large pottery stand, which was aligned on top of the Tatetsuki mound. And it eventually transforms into the cylindrical Haniwa pottery, which is an important element of the coffin period funerary ritual. So the Tatetsuki mound was a sort of an origin of the later coffin rituals. And in the coffin period, in the early part of the coffin period, we still had female powerful chiefs because there are some evidence of women buried in large burial mounds. But from the middle coffin period, women disappear from the top of the political systems. And why that happened? An answer may be found from the burial goods we found from the inside of the coffin burials. In the middle coffin periods, we have found many iron weapons and armors, like those you can see, like iron sword and iron spearheads. And these are another iron arrowheads, and this is also a type of arrowheads. And it seems that when the military aspect of the society was emphasized, women lost their political power. There are many forms of power. There can be the power of social networking or power of a religious, integration. And for those kind of powers, men don't necessarily, out or go better than women. But when the military aspects it becomes very important, women lost their political significance. And I think this has a very significant implication for our modern society. But archaeology is the study which, targets the ancient period. But I'm always conscious about what the research results might have implications on our contemporary world. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. And now I'd like to answer questions from the audience. What questions? Okay, the first question is, what attracts you to archaeology? Well, I think that the most fascinating thing of archaeology is that you can actually touch the objects made and used by people hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands years ago. And it's a very exciting, thing. And but it is not easy to reconstruct people's behavior, minds, or social structures from those material evidence. But it's also exciting to get close to the past with various kinds of analytical methods, including scientific methods. Okay, I think I have time to answer the next another question. That is, how many students are there in your lab? Are there any international students? Do students also do excavation work? But now about 20 undergraduate students and 7 graduate students are working with us. And we have 5 faculty members in archaeology. So it makes a very lively group, and we can also provide very attentive instructions. And as for international students, we have students from China, Taiwan, and the United States. And they are a very important member of our laboratory. And about excavation, we usually do excavations together with students, and the excavation is a very important opportunity for students to learn necessary techniques and the research methods. And it is a tough work, but it is also a very exciting experience. And I hope that you can join with our excavations in the near future. Thank you very much.